Welcome all, Raymond for Stream Gamers. Today we're going to do a video doing a comparison between SimBrief. All of us probably understand SimBrief and know how it works. Most of us do anyways. And this new web-based flight planner called planner.flightsimulator.com. I think it's done through Working Title. I believe that's where it came from. There was a live stream that Microsoft Flight Simulator did in conjunction with SOVA, as they do on a fairly regular basis, and this is where I found this thing, and so I thought, wow, this is interesting software, web-based software. So is SimBrief, I guess, the same web-based. The one thing about this, let me get rid of that. So SimBrief, this is SimBrief. You'll note that the AIRAC cycle is out of cycle or out of date. I've canceled my subscription to Navigraph. I'll explain that later on in the video as to why I did it, and what I'm using in conjunction for, or what I'm using now instead of that, because I am using something different. So I'm just making a little note here for myself. Okay, so making a flight plan in SimBrief, I'm making a flight plan in Flight Planner. Okay, so we'll pick an aircraft. I'm going to do the 737. We selected it. We're going to go to route. Then we're going to go into here, and we're going to go to new flight plan, and we're going to select the 737. Which is 737. I'll get it. There it is, the max. Okay. So far it's kind of more or less the same, right? I mean, we've selected our aircraft. So now we want to select the route, and here's where some of this gets a little different. In SimBrief, I would just simply I would type in my airline code. I would type in my flight number. Oops. I would type in my flight number. I would type in CYWG and KORD, and I would put that in. Whoops, I guess I didn't type that right. KORD. There we go. I'd put that in, and for SimBrief, we'd pretty much be done. Okay. You know, we can check various different flight plans and so forth, but I'm going to leave the default because it'll be apparent later on. One thing I will change is the runways. We are going to be using 36 on the departure from Winnipeg, and we're going to be using the 28 right on the arrival in Chicago. Okay. So that's SimBrief in a nutshell. I would simply hit generate. I would have a flight plan, and away I would go, ready to go. Flight Planner, here's Flight Planner. So here's the route. We add our route in. I've done this before, so you can see I've already put in Winnipeg. Our destination, I've put in Chicago, so we'll select those two. So we can see here we've got Winnipeg and we got Chicago, right? Now, we can add a departure by just doing this and then selecting the departures, and it's quite nice that you can see. I'll get my map centered again. There, let's do that. Okay, so it's quite nice in the fact that you can select the various different doodads here. And it draws it out for you. Okay, so, but we're not going to do that this time. What we're going to do is we're going to go to, we're going to remove that, and we're going to hit Auto Select, which is a really neat tool. So you see, here's Winnipeg. This is 36, which we're intending to take off from. So we're going to hit Auto Select, and it's going to pick our SID for us, and that's what it's picked for us. Okay. Likewise, we're going to come down here and we're going to look at our arrival. Now, let's get down to Chicago-ish area. Where is it? Down there. Okay. And so here we're going to select our arrival, and we can do again. We can hit add and then pick the arrival we want, or we can just hit auto and say, well, that's what it wants us to do. So let's do that. And the same with our approach. Let's pick our approach and say, okay, that's what it wants us to do, knowing that it wants 2-8 right. Okay, so we've got both our star, our approach and our star in. We've got our SID in, and you can see they're not connected. And it's very simply, we can go and add in the route we want, or again, we can hit auto route it, and it will just create the route for us. Now, what's interesting about this is if you look at CY, DU, X, US1, and da-da-da-da, right? If we go down here, we have a completely different flight plan. For now, that's not terribly relevant, but we do have a completely different flight plan. And my suspicions is because we do not have the updated air ride cycle there, but I believe we have some version of that being updated here. So we'll carry on. We've got our flight plan. We've got the flight plan kind of set up now, and we've got it set up in both cases, both from SimBrief and from Flight Planner. Okay, it should be as simple now as getting into the sim, getting on ground, and start to kind of import this in to the sim. And we're going to attempt to put this in first. So the way I've been instructed to do this is to go down here and hit save flight plan. So we'll save it. Now we do have this one here, and I think what I'm going to try to do is overwrite this existing one or save a new one. Let's just do a new one. Okay, so now we should have two. We have this Airbus one and we have our Max one. Okay, so that should be as simple as that. Here, what we should really need to do here is hit generate. And now we have our flight plan generated. So now we're going to pull this aside. We'll get ourselves into the sim. We'll pick our 737 MAX. 737, there it is. Let's just see if we can, not that it really matters, but let's see what kind of liveries we've got, because why not? We got a business, we got a passenger. Let's do passenger. Let's pick a United, because we can, unless there's an Air Canada in here, which there won't be, but let's pick the United one. It doesn't really matter for this demonstration. Okay. So now we'll get ourselves on ground. Now, before we go on ground, the instructions are we hit the AFB, we select the route, we load the flight plan. It sees both our flight plans here. Now, we've got to find out which one is the right one. My suspicions are this is the right one here because of this. So I will assume that is the right one. And we'll let it load. Okay, so it's loaded. We have our departure. We're going to select runway 36 because that's what we wanted. And we're going to select, okay, we got that right. Okay, so we have everything in here now, right? The neat thing about this whole new system of 2024 is that if we want charts, unlike in 2020, we have to utilize a third-party chart program, which is usually Navigraph, and it's a paid subscription. Here, we let me go back here again. We click on this little doodabber thing, and then we click on then we click on here, and we can see all of our charts. Now, this is our departure, and that's the one we want. We're departing 3-6, so that's the chart that we want. We are using none of these departures, I don't believe. But should we have been using one of these, whoops, that's the wrong one. Let's lose the Grizzly 5. We can make this bigger. make it full screen. We can zoom in, and you can see there is our chart for our SID, right? This is runway 36. We're going to take off, go around, come back, and then go down. Okay. Let's back this out. Let's back this out, and let's make this a little smaller so we don't eat up too much of our space. And the same can be done for the arrival. So if we go back here, if we go back here and we go down here to our arrival, and we want our charts, there's all of our charts, right? There's our arrival, there's our approach. And so we can do exactly the same thing here, look at our arrival and pick the actual arrival. I won't do that in here, but you can see that all of our charts are here. And here's the reason why, as I said before, that I've gotten rid of Navigraph, because the charts are here. Now, are they here for everything? No, I don't think they are. I don't think this chart system is as advanced as as Navigraph. I think Navigraph has more charts, but this is a pretty good start. Most of the major airports are here, and so yeah, I think it's a pretty good start. I think that that as time goes by, they will probably improve upon it, and expand on it, right? So if we look at, this is the chart, I believe, that we are using for our arrival. Oops, there it goes. Let's click on that. Now, come on, there we go. So there's our arrival. Again, we can make that bigger so we can see it. We can zoom it out a little bit, right? So there's our chart that we're actually going to come in. So we're coming in from down here, right? We're going to come in around like this, circling around, and come back in on runway 28. Okay. Now we're not going to do the flight because, well, that wasn't the plan. The plan is to discuss the system. Okay. So let me get back to here. Let us get ourselves. Oops. Somehow that got changed. Let's pick that. Save. Let's go to, now if we were to select, let's close this again. Let's close this again. We select this EFB, right? If we go down here, down here, and we hit ATC, it should put the line on the map and everything else. If we hit send to avionics, the way I'm understanding is when we send it to the avionics, when we boot the plane up, we should have that flight plan in the plane. Okay, so let's just verify that we do have the route on the map. We do, right? There's the map and there's the route. You can see there's Winnipeg, Chicago. 36 is our departing runway. Why that keeps changing is beyond me. Did I make the mistake and pick the wrong runway? I did. See? I picked the wrong runway here. Well then, can I change that? What? Change runway. Yes, I can. Let's change the runway to 36 and select that. Okay, and then let's re-auto select our departure. And everything else will be good. Then let's... I think that's all we need to do here. Then let's go back into here, back into the EFB, and let's load the route in again. Let's load that one in again. Let's go back down here and select ATC, and you saw a blip there for a second. That's the way I understand it. It's re-putting it back in using runway 36 as our departure. But it hasn't. Again, it hasn't. So this time I'm just going to come here, and it's so yeah. So there's a bit of an anomaly there that, and maybe I've done something to create that problem. We'll give it the leeway and say that, you know, I've done that because I selected the wrong runway in the first place. Okay, but now you can see we've got runway 36, 28 right, O'Hara, Winnipeg. All of that is in there. Our route is in there, right? And so if we hit start flight, we're going to hit start flight, and we're not going to start our flight at the as a cold and dark flight. We're going to start our flight on the runway. It will just kind of help speed the process up of lighting it all up and all that kind of stuff, because this isn't really about starting a 737. This is about comparing the two planners, and there is a third and a fourth one too. For those that are looking at other planners, there's little nav map, works really good as a flight planner. There's Plan G as well, which also works very good as a flight planner. These are all utilities that work pretty good. Plan G I'm not as familiar with, but I know that with little nav map you can easily, let me turn that volume down just a skosh. There we go. You can easily create a flight plan in Little Nav Map, export that out, import that back into 2024 or 2020 for that matter, and away you are. I'm going to bring some light into the sim, so we're not having to deal with this oversaturated lighting. Get that brighten up a bit. There we go. Okay, so here we are in the sim. We have what looks to me is our magenta line there with vectors. Let's go see how much of the flight plan is in here. So first things first, what do we want to do? Well, we've got flaps set, but that's the default setting. Let's look at legs. Okay. It is not the flight plan that we're intending to fly. It's missing a lot of the information. Let's see what happens if we were to do this, and we were to re-ATC it, and we were to hit send route to avionics. It's sent it in. You can see there it wants me to execute that. So I've done so, but it has not put in all of the different legs. It's far from inputting in all of the different legs. So this is the issue that I have with this new flight planner. Now I did this in an Airbus A310. I've done it in an A321, and now in the 737 MAX. And in either case, I've not been able to actually get the flight plan to load into the FMC. It just hasn't. It just won't, for whatever reason, but it won't. Now, I suppose there are other ways of doing this. Potentially saving it into. Let's do that. Let's take this. Let's go download. We'll download this here. Now we've got it downloaded. Let's load it in here from this PC. My downloads folder. That's the one we want. And there we go. We've got it now all put in here again. If we select ATC send to avionics, it does it again. It executes, right? So let's execute it. And interestingly enough, most of our flight plan, I believe, is there now. So for some reason or another, and it could be that I'm doing it wrong, but through the flight planner system, it doesn't send the route to the avionics by using this button. And is there a button that I'm supposed to be doing prior to all of this and have it do that? It's possible, but this has been kind of the problem that I've had with the flight planner. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the flight planner will eventually become something very, very nice. But until that happens, I lean toward thinking that SimBrief is a better utility. The other thing a guy could do is edit, and we could, if we wanted to, we could come here and we could copy this. Whoops. We could copy this. And we could paste that in, analyze it. There we go. We've got a route. We could hit generate. And as we did before, we could hit download. Go down here to 2024, download it. It's been downloaded. Go into here, load the flight plan, load it from this PC, go to my downloads folder, pick the most recent one, which I assume that is the right one, and it's there. Load it in with the ATC. Whoops. Uh-oh. There we go. It just took a minute. It was just a little slow. So load the ATC and load the avionics. And you see the execute button is back there again. So now, presumably, we actually have the flight plan that we had when we created it in the flight planner. Okay? So let's go and look at this a little more. There's some cleanup that we'll have to do, and that's been the case across the board. But let's look at our departures and our arrivals. So that's the departure that we're using, and let's compare that to the departure that we had in here, which is correct. Right there. Pull that aside. Let me clear that A out of there. Let me get that out. Let me get that out. We'll back up. Let's look at our arrival. Oops, key is not active. Why? Well, that's a strange turn of events, isn't that? Why would that key not be active? Huh. That's weird. We've never had that happen before. Okay, let's go back into departures and arrivals. So that's right. Taking off from there, yeah. Okay, I'm really curious to why that key is not active, and now it is. That's interesting. Okay, as we saw it, let's find out where our. So we're brown and FYITE. Brown, nope, FYITE7, is that right? Yes, yes. And we're brown, and we are 28. Oops, 28, right? Enter. Well, I mean, in general, we have the flight plan in there. Okay, we've got some cleanup that would need to be done. So we'd need to do this. We'd need to do this. We need to clear out that vector. We need to kind of go through this, and we see that there's a discontinuity in there, so we'll get rid of that discontinuity. And in general, oops, there's another vector in there, right? There is. Well, let's click on that. Let's click on this. Let's click on that, and let's click on that. And that, I think, should do it for us. Now, let's switch the planner over to plan. Let's scroll out just a tad, and let's go back to Winnipeg and see what the flight plan looks like. There we go. So you can see we're taking off straight north-ish. We're going to fly out there, and we're going to turn around. We're going to come back. circle around, and we're going to come in. So we have a good flight plan. Everything has actually gone in. The problem is when we're deciding to change what we're doing here, it hasn't, you can see the flight plan does kind of mirror what we did, right? It kind of comes down, goes around, and it'll come back in. All of that is good. What isn't so crash hot is we can't take this flight plan and put it into the sim directly. Or at least I'm unable to do it. Another thing that's kind of interesting is you can see, you know, your approach should be between, maybe I can make that bigger. Hopefully you can see that. But your approach should approach altitude between 5,000 and 2,200, 4,000. So that's kind of nice that they've got that in there, right? You know, they're giving you distances, altitudes, headings, and all that good stuff in there. And I think that's kind of nice. You know, the opposite to that is here's what you have in SimBrief. It's been adequate for years and years and years, and it will continue to be adequate. One of the things that SimBrief does is it projects and plans your fuel, whereas the flight planner does not. When we go into here and we look at our fuel plan, there is no fuel plan for us. Okay? We have to figure that out. So again, we can collect all that information from SimBrief and put that into here, and that's great. But very quickly we find ourselves, and this is kind of what I was talking about staying to the end, we're very quickly finding ourselves, unless somebody has more information about this than I do, but we're very quickly finding ourselves needing to rely on some other piece of software to provide us the rest of the information. And so my nod so far is to stay with SimBrief, but to use the EFB in 2024 for charts and whatnot, and wait for the planner to improve itself. Wait for it to be for us to be allowed to import it, because if we could import this directly into the FMC, the only thing that would be missing is the fuel planning. That would maybe not be as important, because we could probably still work it out, but we'd still have to use another piece of software. Whereas SimBrief, we need SimBrief, and that's it. Now, having said that, you're only going to get the flight plan generated for you based on the IRAC cycle that you have currently. So those that have never had Navigraph, it's a very old IRAC cycle, meaning your airways and your VORs, DMEs, NDBs, and so forth are going to be old. And the only way you're going to get that corrected is that subscription through Navigraph. I'm going to not go back to Navigraph. Not that I think there's anything wrong with Navigraph. I think it's a wonderful piece of software. I used it for a long, long time. Had there not been free ways of getting charts with some level of accuracy to the way I need them, I probably would still have Navigraph. I just feel there's no need for me to spend the money when there is a system built into 2024 to give us those charts. And they're for free. And quite honestly, so is this. Now, SimBrief, well, you guys will say, well, SimBrief is free to use as well. It is. It absolutely is free to use. I don't have a paid subscription to this, and I have generated a flight plan. I did not generate that flight plan. The flight plan that I generated, as you saw, was a out-of-date flight plan, which was that one. Okay? And it may not be important right now. I believe what I may do is I may generate the flight plan in here to get the updated waypoints and blah, 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 and then copy this into here and export it out, and now use this to bring it into the sim. I realize it's going to be some hoop jumping to do that, but I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to utilize SimBrief to plan out my fuel. I know there's another piece of web-based software that you can use to calculate your fuel consumptions and stuff like that. I forget what it's called, and I'm sure there's more than just that one. But anyways, so there we have it. We have either Flight Planner or we have SimBrief, and like I said, there's also Little Nav Map, which does a really good job, but it's only updated as good as the ARAC cycle within it is updated. And Plan G, you can do the same. Okay, so Raymond Stream Gamers, I hope you've learned something. If you know something more about the Flight Planner that I haven't covered in here, by all means, go ahead, put it in the comment section, the good and the bad. I'm happy to hear all of it, and the rest of the users can benefit from those comments just the same. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Raymond for Stream Gamers. Do the like, comment, subscribe buttons and all that good stuff for me if you would. I would greatly appreciate that. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day, and don't sweat the little things. The little things will look after themselves. The big ones, do something about them if you can. If you can't, then you can't. And let's move on with life and enjoy life and be happy. Be kind, most importantly. Look after everybody that needs help, because one day you may need it yourself. All right. Thanks for watching, and we will get to you on the next one. Bye-bye now.